When I was a little girl sitting on my daddy's knee, my favorite thing that he would do was read a story to me. I loved looking at the pictures, so many pretty colors to see. And when we finished, we'd take a ride on down to the library.
In October 1913, residents of the small farming town of Lyme, Connecticut, voted to establish a library. At the urging of Charles Peck, 4 months later, on February 3, 1914, the Lyme Public Library officially opened its doors here on the ground floor of the Lyme Congregational Church. The roots of the library, however, go much further back than that. In 1859, the Joshuatown Sewing Society was formed. Its stated mission was, quote, to acquire and diffuse knowledge and to avoid sectarianism and bigotry, end quote. The society set up a lending library for its members, complete with circulation rules and penalties, that was underwritten by the sale of sewing projects and books. An earlier effort was made in 1858 when resident John Bill offered to use his home on Bill Hill as the library. A grand total of $12.25 was raised for the purchase of 35 books, which circulated until they were worn out according to records. But it was here on the ground floor of the Congregational Church 100 years ago that the library, as we know it, found its first home. Doe Jewett, a lifelong resident of Lyme, has some fascinating reflections on those early days of the library.
The library was in the bottom of the church on the south side. What on the north side was a wood-burning furnace. The library was open for a couple of hours after church, and I think a few hours on Wednesday. They had 2 sets of books that I read over and over. One was the Adventures series by Thomas Burgess, and the Adventures of Jimmy the Skunk and Sammy the Crow, Reddy the Fox. Then there were the old Mother West Wind books, all about animals also. I cried over some of the Ernest Thompson Seton stories like Lobo. We did make use of the small library.
Over the years, the library has moved around. There were branches at Grassy Hill in Headlyme, and for a time at the Lyme Consolidated School. As times changed and needs changed, a group of residents persuaded the town that the library needed its own building. Thus, in March 1971, the current library opens its doors on land donated by the town. Certainly, a lot has happened over the last 100 years. The town of Lyme has staunchly weathered world wars, cultural and technological revolutions, astronauts on the moon, terrorists and heroes, good times and bad. Yes, the world has changed a lot, along with the way people use libraries. The library's role as a gathering place has grown considerably. With so much of life happening electronically and impersonally, over the years, the shape and location of the library has changed many times, but its core has always remained the same. For this is, and always has been, a place that's about much more than books. The Lyme Public Library is where the community can always find information, ideas, connections, and above all, each other.
The year 2013 is a very important and exciting year for the library. In 1913, the library was founded 100 years ago, and we are celebrating the 100th anniversary of the library this year. But what makes it especially exciting is that after many, many, many years of hoping for, trying to make sure that we would be able to build a new library, it is happening. And it's happening this year. In 2013, We are going to be celebrating not only the founding of the library, its 100th anniversary, but, and with this great excitement, the breaking of ground for a new library here in Lyme.
What did you love most when Dominic Dunn came to the library? What did he see in the library that you just loved?
Well, it was wonderful. Dominic had an understanding of this library that not everyone does, because it's a small library, it's an overcrowded library, and people don't always see what's here that makes it so magic. And he did. And I remember sitting in his living room at one point and him saying to me, and he did this, he said, "You know, Judy, when I'm gone, all of my books that are here are going to be at the library. I'm donating all of my books to the library because I think it's such a special place." And he did. And it was, he was magic. He gave all of his films because he was on the board of the Academy Awards, and so he had all these films and he gave them to the library. And to this day, the Dominic Dunn collection is one of our most valuable treasures.
And tell us about some of the earlier librarians and how you met Teresa.
Okay. Well, the first librarian that I got, a former librarian whom I got to know well, was Peg Harding. And Peg Harding had been the librarian for many, many, many years, no longer was, but was at every board meeting as our recording secretary. She was not on the board, but she took the minutes, and of course she shared all of her experiences and thoughts with us. As a new board member and a relatively new member of the town of Lyme, it was wonderful to have Peg there, kind of just promoting the library and the library as it used to be. I feel very grateful that I got to know her. The second librarian that also was here at the time, a former librarian who was here at the time, was Hazel Stark. And Hazel at that time was the keeper of the scrapbook. And she would come in almost every time I was here and go straight to the shelf where the scrapbooks were kept and get in and open it up and add materials that she had found in the local papers for the present time. They were two amazing ladies, and they will always be a very important part of our memory of the library and how the library began. I do remember when I first met Teresa, and it was when we were interviewing for a new librarian. And she came in and we talked with her, and she shared some of her ideas about how she felt a library should be run and what her goals would be, and we were very impressed with her. She was young, hadn't been out of school for very long, but she's now been here 27 years.
Judy, what are you most excited about with the new library?
Space and a community room. That is something we have missed. Always. We really have a hard time having lectures, meetings. We can't do any really fun events because we just don't have the room. Where we do hold our meetings is the children's room, and of course the priority is the children and their books. And in order to have a program, we have to move all of our books and all of everything that serves the children. And now we are going to have our own room and a community room, which I see as a way of bringing people into the library who have not come before. I think it's going to be a way to have art shows, to have maybe even movie nights, to have far more lectures than we've ever had before. And I think it's going to make this library a true resource for the community.
Hi, I'm Dan Hagan. I'm chairman of the building committee for the Town Hall Library Building Project. On or about July 21st, 2013, we're going to start construction on the project. We'll be expanding the town hall in addition to renovating the existing building. For the library, we're going to be building a new library on land recently acquired by the town just north of the existing site. As we were working with the architect, Bruce Tuthill, we learned that building a new library is actually lower cost than renovating and expanding the current building. Needs of the building include adding children's library space, adding an efficient heating and air conditioning system, and working to limit the long-term operating costs of the building. We look forward to this project being a big success and having the town take advantage of this building and facilities for many years into the future.
We'll take a little look inside of a book and tell me what you see. Every story opens up a brand new world for me. Funny, silly, sad, or sweet, can borrow the books for free. Come read a story, morning glory down at